If you're a fan of The Weeknd's music, you're gonna want to watch this video.
Get down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop.
So about a month ago, I had the opportunity to go to not just one, but two of The Weeknd's After Hours Until Dawn concerts. I went to the one in Seattle and the one in Vancouver. So needless to say, this concert's nothing short of an epic experience that you'll never forget.
You thought you were going home right now, Vancouver, didn't you? We're not going anywhere right now. Play that shit.
So with that said, when I go to a concert, I'm not the kind of person that can just enjoy myself by sitting there. I have to fully immerse myself in the experience both audibly and visually. After all, I am a filmmaker, so I wanted to give you guys a step-by-step guide on how I filmed this video with my iPhone 15 Pro Max. So if you're the kind of person that just wants to skip to the tips, I'll have the chapters listed in the timeline below. But in the meantime, I did want to point out this fun fact. I think the song Hurt You by The Weeknd is one of the most underrated songs ever. That's all. So let me start by saying that I attended the Seattle show at the very last minute. And when I say last minute, this is what I mean. So my friend and I found $40 tickets, but with that, we had about 30 minutes until the show started. So by the time we got there, we're racing up the stairs as his first song, The Abyss, was playing. So even though I live in Seattle, the main reason why I got tickets at the very last minute was because I already had tickets for the Vancouver show. Tickets in Seattle were through the roof, and I'm the kind of person that likes to sit in the 10th row or closer. Otherwise, I'm not going to really enjoy myself. Tickets were like $1,200 for front row seat tickets in Seattle. I kind of looked at the last minute, but when I looked in Vancouver, they had $300 tickets. And I had a date with me, so it just made more sense to drive 2.5 to 3 hours to Vancouver and sit front row. So regardless of where I was sitting, I took this opportunity to film from every angle that I could. So both shows were incredible, but I've got to say that Seattle took the cake for being one of the loudest crowds on the entire tour. And I've got to say that it beat Vancouver over being a better venue. So let's dive into what you're really here for. For this specific video, I filmed everything on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But these steps will also apply to you if you have an iPhone 14 Pro or newer. So the first thing that I did was make sure that my phone was set to the highest resolution possible. In 2025, most phones will shoot at 4K resolution. A lot of times they'll shoot at 60 frames per second, but a lot of the newer models will shoot 4K 120. As you're changing your resolution, I suggest setting it as your default setting. That way, anytime you open your camera app, you won't have to constantly keep changing it back to 4K. The next thing you want to do is make sure your iPhone is filming on Apple ProRes. Also, make sure that your color profile is set to log. So for the people that aren't completely in the film industry and have no idea what Apple ProRes does, so when your camera's shooting an Apple ProRes codec versus the regular H.264 codec, what happens is typically your phone will take the H.264 and compress that file. So this is great for saving space, but with that, all of your colors are baked in and there's not really much flexibility in post. As I just mentioned, filming in Apple ProRes is going to create some incredibly large files. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have enough storage on your phone. But in case you don't, here's some tips on what I did. Unfortunately, in my case, my phone only had 128 gigs of storage. So depending on how important high quality footage is to you, I would suggest getting at least a 1 terabyte portable SSD. For this specific show, I went with the Samsung T7, but you can also use a SanDisk or any other portable SSD. One of the things that I would suggest is making sure that the cord that's going from your phone to the SSD has a fast enough read and write speed. Again, these Apple ProRes files are massive, so make sure you're not experiencing any lag, otherwise you'll miss an important moment as you're waiting for it to process. So you're going to want a USB 3.0 cable with a speed of 10 gigabits per second or more. I'll put the link in the description below. So now that we have the hardware figured out, next let's figure out where to position yourself at the concert. So in order to create a great video, I would suggest choosing an aisle seat if possible. That way you can freely get up and move around when needed. So every venue might be a little bit different, but for the most part, the stage is all set up the same way, and I'm going to give you pointers on where exactly he's going to be during what song. The last thing you're going to want to do before going to the show is go on Spotify and look up The Weeknd's After Hours Until Dawn set playlist. I'm also going to list this in the description below. So the main benefit of having this playlist is so that you can see what song is going to play next in what order. That way you can mentally and physically prepare yourself on where you want to go during certain songs. So this is the moment when the lights begin to dim and all that anticipation that you've been feeling for the last weeks and months are going to quickly turn into chills running through your body. And then there it is, the crowd begins to cheer and we hear Abel's dark cinematic vocals. This is where you feel like you've been hit with a cinematic wave of emotions.
Wanna be it, wanna feel it.
During the first 5 songs, this is where he's going to continue building the energy layer by layer. He'll introduce the Stargirls and you'll see some incredible visuals that'll leave you breathless. So during this time, out of pure excitement, I captured a lot of content. You won't see a ton of visual effects during this time, aside from the occasional pyrotechnics and strobe lights. At the end of the song Heartless, this is the moment where he's going to remove his mask. This is a great opportunity to get the crowd going wild, then also show Abel showing his appreciation for the crowd. So I've read a lot of forums where there's a lot of speculation about whether or not he's crying when he removes his mask. I have no doubt that he's emotional during this moment, but you have to think he did just perform 6 songs in a row, so yeah, he's probably sweating under there. But, you know, I'm not going to tell you that Santa Claus isn't real. When he starts playing I Can't Feel My Face, this is the moment where he's going to finally leave the staircase and start going towards the intersection of the cross. Specifically for me and my date, the part that we were most excited about was when Lost in the Fire came on. This is where Abel fully goes down the runway and right in front of us. I might be wrong, but I think this is the moment where he's going and scoping out which part of the crowd he wants to perform his song Out of Time at later in his set. Most of his interactions with fans have been at the bottom of the cross, so my date and I took the opportunity to make a sign in order to get his attention. I'm not sure if it was 100% effective, but it was worth a shot. He definitely glanced at her a few times. The moment I was most excited about was when the song The Hills came on, and here's why. During this moment, all chaos breaks loose and flames are just shooting everywhere. The entire stadium turns red, and it's just a demonic passage. Based on the Spotify playlist that I suggested earlier, I was able to take this moment to go to the back of the stadium and get my settings right before The Hills came on. For me, the most important point of interest was the golden sculpture in the middle of the cross, so I made sure to lock my focus and set my exposure so that it didn't shift. And you're going to want to make sure that you bring down your exposure a bit, because once those flames start going, your camera's not going to know what in the world to do. It's going to be overexposed, it's going to be doing all these crazy things, so just trust me. The last thing that I did during this moment was make sure that you switch your camera to action mode. The reason for switching to action mode is because I wanted to get a large and fast sweeping shot of the crowd in the foreground as the fire was raging. Switching this mode will completely remove all the bouncing and shaking as you walk. The only thing that you have to be mindful about in this mode is make sure that your main point of interest is centered or somewhat near the center of your frame. As a filmmaker who's always looking for the next cinematic shot, I think having action mode on the iPhone is one of the best features that they could have added. It allows me to walk around and not have the need for a gimbal, but it also lets me shoot at 5 times zoom and still be incredibly smooth. So I'm going to give you guys another little fun fact. So after he plays The Hills, this is the moment where he's going to go on stage and pretend like Seattle wasn't the loudest city on tour. And no matter what you hear on social media, it's all fake news because Seattle takes the title.
Well, we not in the hills right now, are we? Seattle, no. Oh, no.
The next moment that was exciting for me was during his song Sao Paulo. This is when the Stargirls come on stage and completely go psycho in the flames. I've got to give them so much credit because the way that they just stood there on the platform and danced as the flames were just almost consuming them was just completely epic. The next big moment is what everyone's been waiting for and watching on social media. This is when he plays Out of Time and interacts with his fans. So as mentioned before, during the song he usually goes to the bottom of the cross and chooses fans that are near the staircase. Unfortunately, he didn't come sing with us, but he did give us a high five as he ran by. For the next song, I don't really have any filming advice, but I will say that when listening to Call Out My Name, make sure that you're ready for the wave of emotion that comes with it. So I'm actually realizing that I'm not the only one that went through this, but the girl that I went to the show with was no longer my girl anymore. So the song just kind of hits a lot different when you're hearing those lyrics and the whole stadium turns blue. As a Weeknd fan, the biggest moments for me were the last 3 songs: High for This, House of Balloons, and Moth to the Flame. So for the last song, depending on what venue you're at, you're either going to get fireworks or you're just going to get a bunch of pyrotechnics and lights flashing. And it's usually based on if there's an open roof or if it's in the city. So in Seattle we got fireworks, but in Vancouver we got lights and flames. And I've got to say that Vancouver was a little underwhelming after experiencing what Seattle had to offer. Personally, I would have loved if he just shot confetti for the floor section, but if you're a true Weeknd fan and you went to his House of Balloons concert way back in the day, there were like 200 people in the building, but his main point of marketing was like filling these like EXO balloons. He probably had like 100 EXO balloons that were just flying throughout the room. I think that would have been a cool touch to bring back. I'm not going to go too deep into my editing process, but I would like to encourage you guys to take some of these film methods and apply them to your upcoming shoots or concerts where you might just be limited to an iPhone. So if you found any of this info useful, I would love if you can help support my channel by subscribing and giving me a thumbs up. It's been a huge dream of mine to hit 100,000 subscribers, so I'd appreciate any help I can get along the journey. So until next time, stay creative and stay inspired.